What's going on, guys? See this canvas back here? This is the first canvas I've done in a very long time, and part of the reason that I haven't done a canvas in a very long time is the last few canvases I really haven't felt very good about. Not even that one back there. What I want to talk to you guys today about is self-reflection, self-education, self-understanding, self-realization, all these other selves, so that we can get away from the stuff that's making us unhappy in our work and over to the stuff that's really pushing our creative limits in the best ways. Let's go! What's going on, everybody? My name is Dave Conrad. I'm an artist and a designer based in Southern California, and today what we're talking about is how I finally got out of a rut. I haven't been too happy about some of the work that I've been doing on canvases in the recent past, but I finally got to a point where something feels good. Something feels right. Is this perfect? No, it's not perfect. Close, but it's not perfect. I don't need it to be perfect. I just need it to be headed in the right direction that makes me feel fantastic. And this one makes me feel great and fantastic. This isn't just about painting. This is about any creative pursuit that you are doing, whether it's art or design or music or writing or photography or dance or whatever. What I have learned, what I have taught myself to do to get myself out of the doldrums, out of the bad spots, out of the blahs of my creative work and into the yay, good stuff work, is to take a really good look at myself and take a really good look at the stuff I've done before. But not before I say, if you're new here, like this video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, hit that bell button because you never want to miss a thing, and then you get a chance, share it with all your homies. A couple years back, I painted a very large piece, the largest, most ambitious piece I've ever painted, and I did it as an anniversary gift to my wife. It's called We Should Be in Paris, and it is by far my most favorite piece, most magnum opus piece to date, and after I did it, I was like, this is the best thing ever. I feel so good about this piece, and then I was never, ever, ever able to replicate that feeling again. I've painted several canvases since then. I've painted several things since then. I have never been able to replicate the feeling that I felt after that piece was done. I've had similar circumstances with some of the other things I've made, whether it was something that I designed, like a magazine, posters, product. I've had certain circumstances where there's something that came out really, really good. And then after that, I kept trying to capture that same idea. The problem was that I never looked back. I never took a really good look at what I had done, like really dove deep into what it is that worked about what I did. And how do I replicate that? How do I bring those elements forward? Not to create the same exact piece again, not to do the exact same designs over and over again, not to be staid or boring in my work because I'm only going to chase what worked. Figure out that there are elements that made an impact on me as an artist and on the people that view it to a point of where they tell me, oh my God, Dave, that piece is so phenomenal. What is it about that gets them to say that? What is it about the work that gets them to be so emphatic about that particular piece? It comes down to two things: exploration and self-realization. When I painted that large canvas, it scared the hell out of me. It scared the living daylights out of me for a number of reasons. Number one, it was the first time I've ever had to stretch my own canvas. I was super unsure about that. If you were to ever look behind the scenes of what that canvas looks like, I'm sure any canvas framer would probably cringe or laugh their head off, but I got it done. Number two, it was for my wife. It was something that we were gonna hang in our house and it was gonna be huge. I was obviously under a lot of pressure to make something super cool. I didn't know how I was gonna make that work, but I was determined to make something profound, something that she would appreciate, something that anybody who comes to our home would appreciate. And I was scared out of my mind to do that because I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull it off. But because I was diving into a lot of new territory here, I came to the conclusion that I really didn't have any rules. I could do whatever I wanted. And if I could do whatever I wanted, then I shouldn't have any expectations about what gets produced. Now, I very rarely have expectations about what gets put on a canvas, but that doesn't necessarily mean I should be completely blind. I shouldn't go in 100% like, we'll see what happens. It doesn't mean I should do it, but it is how I operate sometimes. I was watching this other guy on YouTube the other day called Sinix Designs, and it's Sinix. I'll link to it in the description below. So this guy is a character designer, and he is far, far, far beyond the scope of my skill level. Like I could never, I just don't have, I'm nowhere near. I'm I just don't have the skill to do what he does. But I've been watching a lot of videos about drawing digitally lately because I do have an iPad coming. And since I do want to hit the ground running when it does show up, I've been consuming as many videos on Procreate as I possibly can until I hit this guy's video feed and started just a deep dive into the work that he does. There's a series of videos where he just lays down as much digital paint as he possibly can in complete, almost limit-free exploration. He will just paint and paint and paint, and he'll make something, and you look, and it looks like he's got something established, and he's really kind of gonna dive into it, and then he'll just turn it over, repaint over it, and start something fresh, and then he'll turn that over and start again, and turn that over and start again, and do that over and over and over and over and over. He has absolutely no intention of keeping some of that stuff that he's creating. He's just making to test his skill, to challenge himself, to pull out things from what he's seen. He's got all these blobs on the page and what he calls the dynamic potato. He pulls stuff out of these dynamic potatoes and makes them into something else until he creates another potato on purpose so that he can turn it into something else, and something else, and then something else, and then something else. So I'm watching this guy and I'm thinking to myself, that has got to be the most freeing thing ever, to just make something without any regard to what happens. And if it doesn't turn out, you just flip the canvas over and start again. And that is exactly what I did here. I wasn't intending that, but it actually turned out that way. After I've done a little bit of work on this, I was watching that video and I was thinking to myself, like, I do that with my painting sometimes, where I will take something and I will completely turn it on its head. I will throw new paint on top of it. I will dig in deep and try and figure out, how can I make this better? Where is the real structure? Where is the focal point? If I'm not getting that, then I'll paint over it until I figure out where that focal point is or where the power is in the piece. This goes for design. This goes for photography, maybe. I don't know how you would do that for photography unless you were just willing to take as many photos as you possibly can. This goes for dance. This goes for writing. This goes for any creative pursuit. There's nothing saying that you have to have an end result into what it is that you are making. You might have a photo at the end of it. You may have a story at the end of it. You may have some choreography at the end of it, but it doesn't mean you go into it with the intention of, like, I've got to make sure that I get this thing done. I got to come out with something or else there'll be no point to me doing it. That little bit of information helped me understand better what's going on here, but it didn't completely seal the deal. It didn't fully get me to where I needed to be on this piece. Because I can dive into here with complete reckless abandon and turn it over and paint over it and draw on it and scratch it up and do all that stuff, which I normally do, but it's not capturing those ideas that I want to capture. The ideas that I found in the Paris piece, I want to bring those ideas forward. So I really had to take some time to observe what was going on there. Sat there in front of that painting for an hour or more, maybe. I've sat, in fact, I know it's more because I've sat and looked at that painting over and over and over again since I painted it. But this time I went in with a very clear intention to pull something out of it. What is happening in this piece? What is it about this that makes that piece so dynamic, and why have I been struggling to do that with everything else? Now, I could go into detail about the things that I felt worked for me, and I could share them with you. In fact, I will share them with you, but I can share these things with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work for you. What I learned from my own work isn't necessarily going to work for you. You have to go into your own work, the stuff that you felt great about, really dive in and figure out what it is about the work that made me feel so good I wanted to replicate it even if I couldn't. Going back and looking deeper at that Paris piece, what I see there is an intention to frame things up in a way that still remains abstract, still remains fluid, has no real structure to it, but still identifies where the power is in the piece. Tells the viewer, look, this is where you need to be paying attention. All the stuff on the outside, that's just the icing. The stuff that I'm highlighting, that's the cake. What always works for my pieces is layering. When I look at this stuff up here, and it may not necessarily translate to what you're seeing here, but what I see here is layers upon layers upon layers. Depth beyond depth, all throughout here. Things that I've painted over, things that I've repainted, stretched, pulled, scratched away. that is one of the things that works really well for me as far as most of the canvas work that I do. What also works is a really robust color palette. My color palette is pretty restrictive in the sense that I always work with the same colors, but you can see the color work is obviously I'm working in contrast. This blue and that orange, definitely complete contrast. That pink and that yellow are in contrast with each other. I work with these bold colors and use them all integrated to each other, because even though this blue and this orange work together, does it necessarily work with the pink and the yellow? I think it does. At least I try to make it work, and I seem to be happy with that result. What also worked in the other piece is a lot of combinations of organic structures like these flowers up here mixed with these color blocks like this stuff here, where I block in certain amounts of color so that I can get this kind of organic versus very structured architectural almost feeling. Stripes and circles and geometry versus this organic flowers and bursts of, you know, feathers. Mix those things together because I think they work. They help kind of keep the flow. And finally, it's about framing up the strong images. This aquamarine structures this figure. So does this black down here and this black here. Before I put these flowers up here, all of this color up here was really chaotic and not really lending itself to it. But as soon as I put those flowers up there, to give it a relative structure, to give it an identity beyond the chaos, it automatically pushed down on everything else. It put pressure on this stuff. And so your eyes are drawn here to this. Even though it isn't the main topic, it's drawn enough so that you look at it, but you're also looking at this and you're looking at this at the same time. And everything here is lending itself to this kind of casual chaos that's happening, so that you're not necessarily, you see it, but you don't necessarily focus on it. And then there's movement that's coming this direction. These stripes are creating this movement that leads to the main object. That's my process. That's how I worked out my own stuff. If you're struggling to get back into a place within your work that made you feel good, made you feel comfortable, so that you can go create more work like that, that you can also explore in a certain way that leads you maybe to new territories, but also incorporates the things, the rules, the strategy, the stylings, the process that made you feel good about that piece. How can you take that stuff and lead it down the path into new work? You're gonna need to take a really, really good look at what you've done before. Be completely open to not finding it, but also be exploratory in the work. Don't go in with intention. Maybe a little bit of structure, a little bit of idea of what you want to do. Using all those things that you learn, how can you take that to find new paths? How can you take that to get into new lands? Explore without any hindrance. You got the tools in the backpack, you're walking down the path, you don't know where you're going, but you got the tools back there to help you. You got your compass, you got your tent, you got your provisions, you got all the things that are gonna help you down the path, because you're not gonna wanna go completely empty-handed. You're going there because you have no care about where you're going. You're just that way. That way. We're just going this direction until I feel like I want to change direction. Or if I'm forced to change direction because some sort of blockade, obstacle got in my way, I'm okay with that too, because I got all the tools in my backpack to keep me okay, to give me that little bit of structure that makes me feel good about my work and doesn't stress me out. And I know at some point, even if nobody ever buys the piece that or does anything with the piece, that anybody doesn't do anything with the thing that I made, it's still gonna be okay because I felt good making it. So that's what I recommend. If you're feeling out of touch with your work, take a deep breath, take a good look at where you've been, and then be okay with wherever you're going. You're gonna find something as long as you got the backpack full of tools. Am I blowing that metaphor out? Sure. Keep working, keep making, don't ever stop. Make something every single day if you can. I hate it when some people say that, but if you can make something every single day, it's only gonna get you further down the path faster. But if you can't, that's okay too. Don't stress yourself out. Pitch that tent and camp for a while, and then head back down the path when you're ready. Okay, folks, that's gonna do it for this one. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found that, I don't know, a little bit informative. I hope you are able to get into a good spot with the work that you might be stymied over. Or if you're already feeling good about your work, then more power to you. So here's my question for you for today. What scares you most about making new work or diving into new territories that you are not familiar with? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're headed down there, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. And then hit that bell button over there so you never miss a thing from me. And of course, share it with all your creative homies, because maybe they'll get something out of this too. That's it, I'm out. Folks, I really appreciate you. Thank you very much for taking your time. I know that you've got other places, other eyeballs that you can be putting on other people's videos or listening to other things, and you're here with me, so I am super stoked by that. You are the best. I love you. You rock. But I gotta go, so remember, be good today, be even better tomorrow. See ya. B-roll time.